Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Maloney, and I'm the co-founder and one of the directors of the New Economy Network Australia, or NENA. And today it's our great delight to be hosting a number of wonderful people. I was going to say from the southern parts of Australia, because I'm up in Queensland, talking about from the NENA Arts and Culture Hub, talking about a remarkable project that they've all been working on together. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge country. I'd like to acknowledge that I personally live, work and play up here on the beautiful lands of the Cubby Cubby people. As is often the tradition in a NENA webinar, we invite you to acknowledge in the chat where you are today, where you live and whose country you're on. We always like to acknowledge inside the New Economy Network Australia that this continent always was and always will be Aboriginal lands. And when the British colonial project came to this continent in 1788, land was never ceded through treaty or in any other way. And the work that we're all doing inside NENA to try to invite ordinary Aussies to come and talk about the economy, to rethink what it means to have a positive, healthy, ecological and social future. It means that we have to talk about the economy and the debt that is owed to the first peoples of this nation who have cared for country since time immemorial and who continue to be leading custodians and knowledge holders for this place. So that's why this particular webinar today is really important, and we can't wait to hear from everyone who's speaking. So I'm going to now introduce Troy Pedersen, who's the Cultural Liaison Officer for the Chain of Ponds projects, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Troy. So I'm going to spotlight you, Troy, and I'll spotlight each of our speakers. How are you today?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm awesome. I'm very tired. We've had a big lead up to our launch event that happened on Saturday for the Wilami Wunmabil Trail. If we can go back a step, I think I was meant to pass it to Aunty Julianne, so our auntie can do a welcome to country. And
yes, sure. That's my fault. I do apologise. Yes.
No, it's fine.
I'll now invite Julianne, my Aunty Julianne, who's a Wurundjeri Elder, to, I'm going to spotlight you, and I do apologise, I missed that on my little dot point. Over to you, Julianne. Honoured to have you with us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aunty Julianne. I'm a Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung Elder. And in recognition of doing a welcome today, I'd like to welcome, acknowledge and pay my respects to my elders past and present and future, and to all First Nation and Torres Strait Islander elders, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. I'd also like to welcome all elders and people of many communities that are here today. And I'd like to welcome you all onto the land of our ancestors. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragator, or the headman, to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or tribal clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcome onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and While the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect these resources, our fauna, flora and water. There were several clans within the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung mob, which has been severely reduced due to colonisation, conflict and disease. Now only one clan remains, and the remaining clan is the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung clan of three families, the Nevins, the Wandens and the Terricks. The three families all descend from Annie Borat, the sister of William Barrack, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, and I am part of the Nevin family. Going on now just about the park, the Moonee Ponds Creek. So the Wilami Wunmabil Trail is a Woi-wurrung name meaning bastard or the turkey, which had cultural significance along the Moonee Ponds Creek. The Wilami Wunmabil Trail is an established Wurundjeri culture immersive trail along the Moonee Ponds Creek. This trail will highlight the culture, and the natural values of the waterways and celebrate the Moonee Ponds Creek as a place owned, lived in, and celebrated by the Wurundjeri people. Using a mix of signage, art, and digital media, the cultural elements invite the community and the trail users to learn from the elders and acknowledge the holders about the aspects of the Wurundjeri culture and the history, and encourage people to become better connected to care for country. The work began with the consultation and collaboration with Scott and his team and Troy and Rachel from the Chains of Ponds, and 4 councils were also involved. They were the Hume City Council, Mary Beck Council, Moonee Valley and Melbourne City Council, and also Melbourne Water. The physical work began with the removal of the concrete wall along both sides of the creek and the concrete base of the channel, and replacing it with rock work created a meandering creek, slowing down flows to give it more natural look and feel. The planting of native shrubs and trees, creating new shared paths and a new bridge, a pond. It gives the area a more appealing creek, which is also great for the environment, with the work quality which improves the biodiversity and the habitats for the native species. This trail serves as a living example of collaborative creative community practice connecting local knowledge, as well as honouring and preserving Indigenous culture within the urban landscapes. It has been a mix of digital highlighting the culture and values of the creek and a place owned, lived in and celebrated by the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung. My highlights for this project is the way we work together by listening to each other, respecting each other's ideas. This was achieved with everyone we worked with on this project. The cultural significance of seeing the way the creek prior to the work being done to the finished product was amazing to see, as well as the way the community gathered to the opening day, listening to Uncle Bill to do his welcome to country and the Jiri Jiri dances, and speaking on the significance of the creek to our people. I love seeing all the families enjoying the new trail and interacting with the artwork and the digital media, as well as seeing the kids loving crossing the creek on the stepping stones and just having general fun. Aunty Gail, Charlie and I have been honoured to work on this project, and it was awesome to see the end product, as sometimes we don't get to see the end product, so it was really good to see the end, and it was a really special day on set day, and I felt really honoured to be there, and I hope that everyone that was there enjoyed the day as well. So Nun Gudjan, thank you.
Thank you, Aunty Julianne. I just have to have a breath because I got emotional listening to you. It was a beautiful, beautiful event, and very special indeed. So my name's Troy Pedersen. I'm a Wurundjeri man from my mob from WA, but I was born in Mabunsha in Alice Springs. I've been in Victoria now for just over 2 years, I believe. And this is home now. I love it over here, and working in with our traditional owners and the Wurundjeri in particular. To give you an overview of how this project sort of came about, it started with reimagining a creek, the projects from Melbourne Water, and so just okay, I'm getting messed up here. Been a long week. To give you an oversight of our catchment, and it was 35 kilometres long, 145 square kilometres catchment. Until the late 1800s, the lower section of the creek are made up of a chain of ponds, so hence that's where we got our name, because if you can imagine, in the old days, Moonee Ponds would have been a chain of small ponds, which, as you could imagine, the first peoples would have used those during the different various seasons as just a way of life, and living off country, respecting country, and enhancing it. As everyone, not everyone, I guess, but Moonee Ponds Creek is one of the most urbanised waterways throughout Melbourne. You know, it was literally just concrete jungle. You know, it's a hideous concrete drain channel that, you know, didn't do much for the landscape. Through the Reimagining the Creek initiative, there was a cultural values assessment done, I believe, in 2017, 2016. I should be able to find it. 2016, and that was then worked in with Wurundjeri, and the idea was to create an immersive cultural trail, and as we've sort of been through, what does that word mean? It means like what we sort of did. We went down, had a walk on country with Scott and Aunty Gail and Aunty Julianne, and Charlie Woolmore, where we got what they sort of expected from what does an immersive trail mean to you? Because, you know, like we've got all our different partners with Chain of Ponds. We've got 4 different city councils, 3 different water agencies, authorities, Parks Victoria, Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek, you know, the Moonee Valley Bike Users Group, Catherine's Living Colour Studios, the ACV, Australian Conservation Volunteers. So, you know, being a collaboration, there's so many moving parts with all the different partners. But what came out of those initial first discussions was having somewhere for people to come and enjoy country and have a cultural experience, something for the senses, because we want it to be immersive. So not only do you come down and see all this beautiful waterway and the beautiful revegetation, but also you can hear the water running through the riffles again, hear the bird life singing. It's you know, really touch the senses and feel what it would be like to live on country and care for country as our traditional owners do and always have done. So respect, like that's sort of, I'm getting lost here. So that's a bit of an oversight of how it came about. Yeah, so I guess I could, I think that's about it. I can pass it on to Catherine here and you can tell us your involvement.
Unmute. Okay, I'm unmuted now. Hi, yes, well, my involvement is that I was involved with right at the beginning of the Chain of Ponds collaboration, and there were a number of people, including councils and, you know, boat clubs and so on. And the major thing was that there were all these little separate groups, and this is a problem that we all know is very common even now, all these little separate groups who are doing things, but no one really was talking to each other. So we said that the major thing is a collaboration, and we've got to get this collaboration happening immediately, because many of us are getting old and we're going to be dead soon. So we thought we've got to really get on with it very quickly. So we got together, and the most important thing that I wanted to say is how you set up the governance from the very beginning. It's the most critical thing, because collaboration isn't just about everybody saying their bit. It's about governance, it's about how you actually shape how you work together, and that's the most critically important thing. So we appointed Twyfords, Melbourne Water, by the way, appointed Twyfords, who was a management group, and we had 3 or 4 sessions, all the people who were interested, all the stakeholders. We're actually 17 stakeholders. So these 17 stakeholders got together. We had, you know, stakeholder agreement, vision statements, etc., etc., and everybody agreed on what was done. The important thing is to keep those documents simple and clean and direct so that we can continually refer to them, which is what we do. And that's the reason for the success of this collaboration. And I just want to say, I feel so privileged to be part of this and to actually work in it from the beginning, because the difference that we've made already, just having Troy and the aunties here participating in this, not just participating in this webinar, but actually having a say in what happens and steering the direction of what the ecological and First Nations ecological knowledge is along the creek, as well as kind of Western science stuff. So it's really absolutely marvellous being here today. And this is like a birthday, really. It's just lovely to see everyone here and to participate in the success. I think it's time that we should have some photos. Who's got some photos? You can see Rachel sitting behind, Rachel Lopez, who is the collaboration lead. You can see this photo behind her, which is, as we speak, this is what we opened on Saturday. This is hot to trot. This is really hot now. Now, can you all hear me? Because somehow my internet's gone off.
Yes, we can hear you and see you, Catherine.
Good, all right. Okay. Oh, so Rachel's, are you showing some photos, Rachel? Good. Can you talk to this, Rachel, while I'm navigating it? Can you all see these pictures?
Yes, we can see the slides. Yes.
Good, good, good. So that's the old concrete, and that's what it's been like for a long, long time. And this is the revegetation, and this is what's happening now. And these are all taken on Saturday. So this is some of the older areas, the previous, and this is Haycare, I think, but the revegetation of the area. So, okay, back to you, Troy.
Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, they're just magnificent photos. And there's that good-looking guy there talking about one of the elements. Maybe we should pass it to Scott right now, because he can explain how all these beautiful elements on the trail came about. And so if I can pass it to you, Scott.
Thanks, Troy. Hi, everybody. Welcome along. Thanks for the time. And I'll note that I'm coming from Wurundjeri country as well, which is one of the great privileges for me working on this project. Is literally in my backyard. So I've had the pleasure of working with Aunty Julianne, Aunty Gail and Charlie on a few occasions. And as Aunty Julianne said at the start, this was a great opportunity to really work together further. And I guess one of the things that really linked the whole project together was that listening that Aunty Julianne said. In fact, that's how the project started. As Troy said, we started off with a walk on country and asking Aunty Julianne, Aunty Gail and Charlie, saying, you tell us. It was actually a Wurundjeri-led project. My role was really just to do that, was to listen, to feedback some ideas and to be led by them, really. So we started off with 4 core ideas. That when we were down by the creek, and we said, tell us what does this space talk to you about? What do you want to share with the people coming down? And it was really that idea of being welcomed onto country, as Aunty Julianne said, do that welcome today. That was a really important people to understand, as was the idea of creation spirits and law, and being understanding how that continues to guide Wurundjeri culture. So that was a key one, as was the idea of country and caring for country. So we want to share that idea. And also the story of community, and not just traditional practice, but the idea that Wurundjeri, as with First Nations cultures, is a living culture, and wanting to share that with, knowing that, helping people to know that they're standing on Wurundjeri country, always was, will be, and really for them to engage with that. So those 4 stories: being welcomed onto country, the role of spirit, the role of country and community, were the force of ideas that you saw in some of those images which I'll get back up in a second, Rachel, to sort of go through. And I guess the two other things that came out of that conversation was that language is a really strong, important component. So we're wanting that to continue and to be a real key feature of that. And the other thing was really being able to listen to stories. And that may partly be because Aunty Gar was just adamant that she was never going to appear on a video, but that's okay. But really, I think the main thing was the idea of the importance of being able to hear those stories from the people that tell them best. So I really said my role, and alongside myself, I worked with Nutshell, who did the graphic design, Aeroplane Workshop, and exhibition design and fabrication, and Sandpit, who developed the digital media. And as Troy mentioned, it was really about balancing and defining what an immersive trail was, and agreeing that we needed to balance an on-site experience with a sort of online digital experience. And so in the background, there is a web-based app that enables you to listen to all of those stories that we recorded with people like Uncle Bill and Aunty Julianne and a number of others. And then the series of sort of art installations to guide you through each of those 4 stories. So Rach, if we can get those images back up, I might just talk through a couple of those really quickly for folks, so you get a sense of the trail. So the trail itself is a layer that we added onto the landscape that was developed at the time. So you've seen through the sort of changing, she shows you there. Moving down to that one. So that first welcome, so Wurundjeri cars, that's a welcome was to come with purpose. And you can sort of see a little map there that pinpoints those sort of locations. So Wurundjeri is the first of the 4 trail stops. And then the idea of introducing language, we have Bik, which is a stop about country, Murup, and I'm doing my best here, Aunty Julianne, Murup, which is the idea of spirit, and Mara, which is the idea of community or mob. So each of those, if you keep flicking down, Rachel, we'll have a quick look at each of those stops. So as each of those have an installation. So in this case, you can scan the QR code to listen to stories, in this case, about country and caring for country. Next one, Rachel. In this case, in talking about caring for country, also looking at the sort of 7 seasons and the idea of traditional practice being so anchored to changing in seasons, which is a form of caring for country, being so attuned as they are and were to the seasons. And so this calendar created by Kai Nicholson Ward's a beautiful artwork that looks at the key seasons and how they change. The little timber grub you can see there, Aunty Julianne did a lot of little sort of, gift of the keys to local schools. So the students from local school come across and they've got the key to unlock the little grub, and they move that grub around at the start of each new season. So they're now the custodians of the seasonal calendar as well as the creek. The next one, Rachel, if we move on. So moving on to Mara, so that idea of community and how strong the story here that when you listen to is Uncle Bill Nicholson talking about the Wurundjeri community, but also the story of Moonee where the name comes from. And the 17 posts is a story that really came out of that initial conversation about the atrocities following colonisation, and as Aunty Julianne talked about, the idea of the impacts of that on Wurundjeri people. And there was a time when Wurundjeri were reduced down to about 17 or 18, somewhere between 17 and 20 odd individuals. So we wanted to create something that symbolized that and really invited people to imagine that impact. And so we created this little install, which these 17 posts. So each of those posts represents one of those people, and that story that Uncle Bill you listen to, he tells that story, as well as the story that from that has come this sort of amazing resilience that the Wurundjeri community continue to have, and today they're a thriving community. So really wanting to engage people in that idea of how important community is. The next one, Rachel, thanks. You can see that in the distance as people cross there. And a closer up those posts here. And our last one, so Murup, which is about spirit. In this case, talking about the stories you have here are about the creation spirits and how those stories get handed down through generations. Artwork here by Ash Firebrace that we, beautiful line work that Ash created that we translated to 3D figures here that sort of sit nestled in the landscape, and as the landscape grows up around those, they'll become more and more immersed in those. And so with those voices as well, as mentioned, caring for country, there's stories there from Wurundjeri community talking about caring for country. There's also a story there from the local community who've been so heavily involved in this project. You can see some of them there, and they've been instrumental in being involved in getting that concrete removed from this. And so we hear about the Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek and their involvement over the last few decades being involved as well. So balance of stories throughout the immersion trail. Thanks, Troy.
Thank you, Scott. That always blows my mind. Okay. To follow on from our agenda, I guess we're opening it up to some Q&A. Yeah.
So
Should I pass it back to Michelle?
Oh, I'm here, guys. I think everyone's been listening and looking at your beautiful photos. There are no questions just yet coming in through from our participants, but I know Catherine already has some questions to put to people for a discussion. So would that be good, Catherine, to go to you?
yes, I'm fine with that. And then Troy, interrupt me, or please, anyone at any stage ask any questions, because there's so much to talk about and so much wonderful stuff to share. So please feel free to chip in. I think the first question for me is to explain a bit more of how gorgeous this trail is, and I think maybe addressing this to Aunty Julianne or Troy and Scott, maybe you'll all like to answer, is how do you think that this trail does something more than just show and tell? In other words, how might non-Indigenous trail walkers connect to country in more meaningful ways than just hearing stories through a book or through a tape recording? You know, I mean, frankly, I'm just over so much information that we get or bombarded with all the time. And I think this trail is such a way through that. So I'd love to hear your comments on that, or your answers.
It's just a feeling that you get when you walk through there, like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's just a feeling that you get, and I think too that you realize that what's being done there is what needs to be done in other areas as well. So, yeah, I think just that feeling of, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what our ancestors did. And, you know, hopefully people will now think we need to start doing this, and we have to really work hard to get this done, and getting people together like this part that has been done, it has shown people can work together to get something done. And it doesn't matter where they've come from, they've all got together because they want to change things and they want to make it people look after country.
Thank you. Troy, what do you reckon?
Oh, 100% agree with Aunty Julianne. Especially like, you know, I work in a space where I'm really fiercely always advocating for our First Peoples, especially just, you know, at the start of when I first started, there was already some engagement to elders, but then we have a governance group and we didn't have our traditional owners on there. I always went straight out, and I remember saying to my manager, I said, look, we need to do it the right way as per cultural protocol. And so I was really pushing to get Wurundjeri elders on our governance group, just for transparency, honesty, and authenticity too, because too many you know, in the past, you know, especially us First Peoples would know, like, you know, we quite often we'll be engaged to just do the old tick and flick stuff for progress's sake. And, you know, one thing I'm really cherishing about being a Wurundjeri man over here in Victoria on Wurundjeri country is, in my heart, I know that this is the state where there's some really progressive thinking, and especially when we talk about engaging with First Peoples and traditional owners. And I'm so happy to be a part of this, because we're leading the way. We are a template about how things should be and how things can be and how they should, you know, just they've got to be, you know. So one thing I'm very invested in, and what happened on the weekend, which I was really happy for, is as fierce as I advocate for my people, I'm also trying to always focus on building a bridge to non-Indigenous people as well. And that was the beautifulest thing with this trail of being immersive. It's building a harmonious bridge for local community people, non-Indigenous people, to experience and then, you know, embrace Aboriginal culture. And one beautiful thing about it, and especially when I talk to parents and the kids from across the road at the primary school, they are so thirsty for First Peoples knowledge. And this is a great initiative to really spread that love and harmony throughout all cultures. And so we can, you know, we all live here, we're traditional owners, but we want everyone to enjoy our lands and be comfortable so we can work together as we progress into the future and, you know, just respect each other. Yeah, that's what I think anyways. I mean, I could sit here all day talking about it and getting deep, but
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, Troy. It's a beautiful thing, and thank you, because it's such it's
I just remember, actually, can I just go back? I'll just say
last.
one last thing as well.
Go on.
Catherine, you emailed, when we first got Aunty Julianne and Aunty Gail to our governance group meeting, you sent me through an email afterwards, and I always cherish this, and you said, I've been waiting for this for 50 years. Cross-culture, biodiversity and arts all coming together to collaborate for a holistic, progressive way of doing projects. And I'll never forget that, Catherine. So, and that's, I've really, you hit the nail on the head, and I love that. So thank you. And yeah, I'll be quiet. I'll pass it on to someone else.
No, don't be quiet. Yes, what's so wonderful, another wonderful thing, and I'm trying to find some photos. I did make a quick little video of Saturday. I was running as an artist, I've been involved in working with litter on the creek. I think the litter problem, as we all know, is so immense everywhere. I think it's so big we can hardly see it. So my focus is always focus on what's the most difficult. And the most difficult is litter awareness, but also litter action. And so on Saturday, we had examples of the sculptures that the primary school at Westbreen Primary is on the is a tributary of Moonee Ponds Creek. We did a walk of that. The kids picked up litter. We washed the litter. The kids made artworks of the litter. Platypus, Ricale. The goal was endangered species, so that the kids learn about Indigenous flora and flora. I mean, most people are totally ignorant. And I mean, and the reason why I do this, by the way, is being an ex-POM myself, it's a way for me to learn to connect to country. So actually to learn about the local species and the endangered species which are severely threatened is of critical importance. So one of the things about this project is that we want Melbourne Water, I hope you're all listening, we want Melbourne Water to sponsor and really take on this project, because we want all schools along the creek to participate in this ongoingly, because kids need to know about the litter and the litter, how to, you know, what to do. I mean, there's all sorts of other projects that we need to do. But did I answer your question? I don't think it was a question. No.
Catherine,
was-
I might just jump in as well, and just to build
Yes,
on
please.
what Troy was saying too, is I think one of the things that worked so well with this project was we're able to have not just, you know, one conversation with Aunty Julianne and Aunty Gail and Charlie at the beginning. Often, you know, there's a conversation at the beginning, there's a check-in halfway through, and there's something at the end to say, what do you think? But because we were able to meet regularly, sort of monthly all the way through this, and it was, you know, an extended project, it gave us that opportunity to really to talk, but also, as Aunty Julianne said, lots of listening, and also the conversations around what do you think that should look like. So, you know, my role, you know, the team that I worked with was listening really carefully and then bringing those back and then presenting an idea to say, well, what do you think of this? Or, you know, how do you think it should look? And it gave us lots of opportunities to really fine tune that, and then, you know, integrate the art to work with, you know, really skilled artists as well to help tell, to bring those stories to life. So I think what we ended up with, which is something, and we had a really beautiful landscape design to work with from Spire, and so we're able to really integrate those elements into that. So we end up with something that I think feels like it lives, you know, it belongs there. We were quite mindful that we didn't want to add a lot of junk necessarily along the creek, and so we didn't want to feel like we're adding lots and lots of signs and lots of things. And that was one of the first conversations we had with Aunty Julianne and Aunty Gail was, well, you know, what should it look like? So we talked about material, and we talked about the use of timber, and we talked about the idea it should feel like it belongs, because that's part of the story we wanted to tell, is about a group of people that belong in terms of Wurundjeri and the country it belongs to, but also that embracing of others and that openness. I guess I was really struck. One thing that really drew me to this project initially was that it was Wurundjeri led, and was that it was very generous in the sharing of culture from the aunties in particular. And I think to be involved in that and to help share that was a real privilege. And I think that's possibly a rare aspect of its project as well. And I don't think Aunty Julianne's, you know, really talking up her role in that enough. But really, this project, particularly the Immersive Trail, would be nothing without them and their generosity of time. And then as you move through with, you know, the education team and Uncle Bill and all the others that were involved in the recordings you can listen to, it's incredibly generous. And there's a little rule. We try to keep audios to about, you know, a couple of minutes at a time. Most of those are about 5 minutes because they're just so rich and they're just so engaging that we couldn't cut them down any further. It would have done a disservice to the generosity they were sharing. So I think that was one of the key things that, you know, makes it quite special.
Can I just ask a question? I've just seen a question here from Maria de Gregorio. Her question is, Moonee Ponds Creek, it's a long creek. I love what has been done. This is a regular walkway for me, so I will be enjoying the environment often. Rachel, can you answer this? I wonder how far along the creek the plan goes. I mean, I think all these lovely things, being an artist, it's so lovely. I love the ideas, but what we need to know is about the cost, the project, how we got the project. I mean, the power of this project is the fact that we've got funding from state that comes through the governance group, federal, state, community, right down to the bottom. And that's the wonderful thing about the collaboration, is the fact that there is a flow through from money for the project. Over to you, Rachel.
Sure thing. Thanks, Catherine, and thanks everyone. So I'm Rachel, the collaboration lead for Moonee Ponds. We have, as I popped in the chat there's $16.4 million to continue this project. And that's because it was so well received by the community, by everybody. So the federal government have chipped in 5 million, and the state government through Melbourne Water have chipped in 11.4 million. So they know this is a great project and we want to do more. So we'll be continuing stage 2 of this project, and we're hoping to also include immersive or some cultural elements as well. But we'll talk with Aunty about what she'd like that to look like and what it could look like for that next section. So we're also hoping, I know Hume Council upstream and City of Melbourne downstream are like, oh, what about us? We want to do something. So we're wondering, we'll start conversations there too. That's not necessarily for concrete removal, that's more for sharing these cultural elements. So we can talk with the Aunties and Wurundjeri about potentially sharing some of this content and having a number of seasonal calendars for not just this community, but for all the kids, you know, near schools perhaps along the creek, so they can all have a similar experience, because it's a very fortunate community here to have this work done and this cultural trail. So we're hoping to share the love up and down the creek as much as we can. Hopefully that's answered that one.
Terrific. Another person has just said, how wonderful, what a wonderful project is Sheridan. Thank you. I hope you're still on, Sheridan. And the photos are great, and hearing the stories, connections and emotions tied to the project help us learn so much too. What arises from that statement is where can we go from here? What do we think we can do to assist? Well, that's probably not the. What can we do to make sure that all our processes are documented and, if you like, made into a how-to book for other people? Can anyone answer that question? Scott, you're the communicator.
Look, I think certainly there is an opportunity to package this up. So there's a little I guess review of the project and the processes. I did also see there's somebody asked about how the artists were engaged and reflected. So in terms of that, for this particular project, so often Wurundjeri, their process is usually with an expression of interest, because I like to be able to make that available to as many artists as possible. In this scenario, because we have, as often with many projects, often time constraints, and there certainly was with this project, and that's a big learning in itself. But in this case, the artists we approached individually based on a couple of criteria. And one was so Mandy Nicholson, who I hadn't mentioned previously, her artwork features on the two sort of welcome signs and on the digital app, if you have a look at that. That was an existing bit of artwork that Mandy had created previously. So we were able to license that specifically for this project. So that was quite an easy sort of choice to make. The seasonal calendar I mentioned had been made by Kaya. So Kaya was engaged directly because of her focus and skills in working with digital art, and we wanted a digital output for that. And we were all just completely blown away by what Kaya produced from the calendar. It's stunning. And the other one were the creation spirits created by Ash Vibrace. And Ash specialized in really beautiful line work. And we knew we wanted to create something. One of the considerations for the creek, or for at least for the elements we were working on, is they were going to be handed over to council to manage and maintain long term. So we needed to think about sort of art elements and sort of interpretive elements in a public space, and they had to be quite durable. And so we knew the approach we wanted for the creation spirits was a sort of laser cut type approach. And so we worked on that a little bit with Ash, but we knew that Ash's work would be quite suited to that. So in this case, the artists were chosen quite specifically and directly based on the sort of the needs of the project, rather than a broad sort of expression of interest. So I think, Catherine, to your point, that's one of the things we could sort of pick up in this, and certainly from our end, also there's a little design pack that goes along with this project. So, councils and those that are looking after this long term know who it was developed by, how, and all those types of things. So there's a little bit of that there. But and I guess things like this are a great way of sharing that process. And obviously every community is different, every cultural group is different in the way that they engage, but there's just definitely some key ingredients from this project that I think we can all learn from.
Yes, my immediate thought is, sorry, Troy, let me just, my immediate thought is, if anyone on the chat can put in ideas that you would need for your area, because I think this is an example of how we work on a small scale and we can scale it up. And so that if we can build these connections in your area, this is what the purpose of the Arts and Culture Hub, the NENA Arts and Culture Hub, is that we can actually develop these projects, examples in areas, and scale them up around the country. That's our brief, really, from the point of view of the NENA Arts and Culture Hub. We've talked about how lovely everything is, but as we know, there's always difficult conversations and hard things. My question to the panel too is what have been some of the most difficult questions, because that's how we can learn and improve, and also is what would you do differently? Is someone speak? Oh no, it's someone there.
Yeah, I'll
Right.
jump in. Yeah, no.
Sorry, I'm in the library and I'm just hearing someone out here speak. Thinking, whoa, go on.
All good. I think one of the most challenging things for me was how do I change the mindsets of, you know, the older non-Indigenous people who, you know, they may be very passionate about the environment and stuff. And, you know, it's not that they're rude, but cultural engagement's not a high priority. So how do I change that mindset? What I've realised is you can't always. So learn to fight, learn your battles. But then we're very fortunate in our space. Everybody that we work with and from every different agency and whatnot are passionate. So surround yourself with passionate people. It's just you get stuff done, but also in the collaboration, everyone has this same invested long-term goal and respect for each other, no matter what our backgrounds are or who, you know, whatever. It's we all have the same passion to, you know, walk on country, care for country, but also respect different cultures. And yeah, so sorry, I got a bit lost with that question, Catherine. But yeah.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think that it's a really important point is that you're not going to win everyone.
No, you need to learn your battles.
And you just have to accept, and then you surround yourself and work with where the soft edges are. I mean, I think that's the way we all have to go. Can anyone else? Is anyone? Rachel, you as collaboration lead, what could you say you would do differently, and what have been the most difficult things?
That's a really tough one because it's really been Scott and Wurundjeri who've been deep in this project. So from my perspective, it's just been the best and wonderful and exciting and amazing to be sitting on the side of and helping happen. My only thing is probably this should be part of every project. That would be my thing. So every major infrastructure project that is going on waterways that Melbourne Water are doing need to have a cultural immersive trail or a similar equivalent as part of their project. So every major, not just the Reimagining Your Creek program, but really it needs to be embedded more effectively and at council, and there needs to be appropriate budget allocated. And it needs to be 5% of the overall budget project needs to be allocated to chip away at this work and make sure, not just a cultural values assessment to CHMP, cultural heritage management plan, tick that box, but something that's actually meaningful and that you're doing and that you're giving back to the community at the same time. That's what I would like to see, and that it's just becomes a step in any infrastructure works that needs to happen. It's one of their boxes that they have to tick is actually meaningful engagement with Wurundjeri, produce something on the ground, and that has to be 5%, but yes, they're ticking a box, but actually then trying to make that as meaningful as possible. But it's not even on there as a box to tick at the moment. So just making sure it gets included. Blah, blah, that's enough. Over to you, Scott.
Yes.
Thanks, Ray.
Scott.
I think well, one of the things we haven't spoken about yet, which is a great outcome for this project, and certainly was one of the objectives, was about creating, helping Wurundjeri build capacity to deliver projects like this. So what we were quite mindful of when developing the elements for this trail is always, could this element be used somewhere else along Moonee Ponds Creek? So, for example, the seasonal calendar that's been developed now, could appear elsewhere along the creek. The welcome to countries that Uncle Bill did, it was specifically, it can be used anywhere along that area. So it was about, because, you know, one of the challenges we have, of course, and Aunty Julianne no doubt will not, you know, is time. It's a time, you know, that it's, you know, people like Aunty Julianne and Aunty Gail do amazing work, but there's the two of them, there's a group there who are in high demand. And so time is always as a challenge. And, you know, there's always, you know, there's an opening date and those things where you have to get stuff done, but rushing through that, you just can't, obviously, if you've worked on these projects before, you'd appreciate, you just can't underestimate, not even just how much time it's needed, but how much time to get that really deep conversation. It isn't just a simple one conversation or two or three. It does take lots of conversations over time. So I think that allowing for that and enough time is really crucial. And as is perhaps one thing we didn't know because it was so early in the project, and my team came in quite late in the plan. We'd already had the landscape was, you know, design was done, the construction was already happening, so we had to fit in amongst that. So being able to have that conversation much earlier would certainly help, as would a conversation with, in this case, with Wurundjeri and Aunty Julianne, Aunty Gail and Charlie, is, you know, more about what that process looks like, because everyone was learning throughout. So I think everyone learned a little bit more through this process, the project, about what that process looks like. You know, who needs to be involved in all the approvals, and, you know, when does the board come into play, and, you know, who's going to sign off on the text, and who's going to help record the recordings, and where will they be recorded? All those sorts of, you know, quite practical things. But I think that wasn't all clear, and we discovered that a way through the process. But having that conversation earlier on, so everyone was a bit clearer, or at least clearer about what we didn't know, would help sort of help identify those things a little bit earlier, rather than stumbling our way through part of the way. But that's part of the fun sometimes. But certainly that was a great learning, thinking about the process as well, not just getting immersed in the stories and the culture, but what's the actual practical process to help bring that to light.
Yes, I
Catherine
have
and
one more.
folks, I was just going to say we're coming up to the end of time.
Yes.
Not
Can
the
we have
entire
one
end
more?
of time.
Can we have one more question? Sorry, I know.
No,
Could
for
this
sure.
be made into a national restoration project? That's from Barbara Lapani. A national restoration project that combines caring for country to climate change mitigation, embodying Indigenous knowledge systems in the nature positive initiative across all levels of government and civil society. I've said yes, that would be perfect. The question is, I think, because this is just so fresh and new that we've just got to this stage, another point which I think responds and can add to what Barbara has requested there is, what's where are we at with the filmmaking and the media? Scott?
Yeah.
Not one for me, Catherine, not sure.
Okay, well, that's the next stage. Just getting the, you know, Rachel, there was a lot of the stuff has been documented from Saturday, hasn't it?
It has. So yeah, we have to think about that next, Catherine. We haven't got to that yet. We were just getting it in the ground for Saturday. So
Yes.
ABC were going to be there, but didn't make it, unfortunately. So yes, we'll think about that now and see where we go from there.
Yes. Well, I think that's a whole nother project that follows on from this, is where do we go and what do we do to promote it so that it can happen in other places, and how do we generate that? People are. It's great that we're saving this chat, and we'll follow up with everybody. So thank you everybody for coming. It's fantastic, and I think we're just at the very beginning of a very exciting time. So thank you. And thank you, Michelle, for hosting this, and to Sarah, and for the New Economy Network of Australia hosting this, I think, very important event. Thank you.
Yes, and can I just also say thank you to everyone, to Aunty Julianne and all of the Wurundjeri and everyone involved in the team. As you can tell from the comments, I think it's very inspiring. People love to see Mother Earth brought back to life and brought and connected into First Nations culture. So we will definitely be inviting you back later this year, or at least early next year, to tell us more about the progress of your project. And if I could just do a quick plug for those who don't know, the New Economy Network Australia is hosting every 2 years. We try to get everyone together for a bit of a conference and a gathering. And this year in October, from the 10th to the 12th of October, we're really honoured to be up on Yugambeh language speaking people's country, up near the Gold Coast. So please do visit our website if you'd like to know more. Everyone's welcome. It's a virtual, it's a hybrid. So if you guys down south don't want to travel, but you do want to tell us about this project, please do let us know and we'll pop you into the proposals for the conference. Sarah's just put the hot link in there for the conference website. So we'd really love to hear more about the work you're all doing on culture, economy, art, the whole gig and caboodle. So, but that's enough from me. Perhaps Aunty Julianne, if you'd like to say farewell, maybe send us off with a few of your thoughts, then we'll turn off the recording and head off for the day. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said before, it's been a pleasure working on this project with Scott, Troy and Rachel and everyone else that has been involved in it too. There's been lots and lots of people that have been involved in this project. And I just want to say how proud I am of everyone that has worked on this project. It has been amazing and it was an honour to be there on Saturday for the opening. So thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your
Thank you,
time.
everybody. And
Thank you.
we'll keep in touch.
Yep. Okay
Thank
then.
you.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye.